All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to preview the late window games for this weekend. Nick Urillo, before I left, commented in the chat, Tyrod is leading the Giants to victory. Listen, I hope so. Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, they cleared concussion protocol, so they're going to be back this week. So that's, the Jets defense is going to be pretty much back to full strength for this game. So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be tough, but we'll see. The Giants defense has been playing well. I think it should be a close game. It should be. But in my spread pool, I think the spread was like 2.5, and I took the Jets, but I'm not good with 2-point spreads. So I'm probably going to be wrong. I have no confidence in my picks this week whatsoever. All right, but we'll continue to pick more of these games. All right, so first game we'll go over. We got the Browns and the Seahawks. Browns coming off of a 39-38 marathon against the Colts. The Seahawks coming off of a 20-10 victory over the Cardinals. So the Seahawks, their offense has been okay this year. They've had some red zone problems this year. Browns, the quarterback position's kind of been a mess this year. Deshaun Watson hasn't played well. He's been dealing with injuries. P.J. Walker's had to step in. Right now, the Browns are 30th in passing yards. Seahawks are 13th. But the Browns are a really good running team. They're second in the NFL in rushing, 147.5 rushing yards per game. The Seahawks are 20th at 106. And then, both teams are around the same in terms of their points per game. Seahawks are averaging 24. Browns are averaging 22.3. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Browns are number one against the pass. They're holding their opponents to 170.7 passing yards per game. And the Seahawks are 24th, 59.3 passing yards are giving up per game. Now, obviously, last week, against the Colts, they let Gardner Minshew, throw all over the place. So got to take that into account. And then in terms of rushing yards, they're both around the same, actually. Seahawks are 6th against the run, and the Browns are 7th against the run. So, that's interesting. And then points allowed, Browns are 10th, and the Seahawks are 12th. I would have to say, and what is the... I want to look up quickly. Is DK Metcalf going to play on Sunday? Got to look at that really quickly. Because I know he missed last week's game. So it doesn't appear... He's not on the injury report, so it looks like he's going to play. Tyler Lockett's dealing with a hamstring. Kenneth Walker's dealing with a calf. Bobby Wagner's dealing with an ankle. Brown's got a lot of people injured too. Jerome Ford is doubtful with an ankle. Kareem Hunt's got a thigh injury. Deshaun Watson's got a shoulder, and Njoku's got a knee. Jarek Wills has got a foot injury. A lot of questionables. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to say the Seahawks win this game. In my spread pool, it was 2.5, so I picked the Seahawks to cover. Yeah, the Browns' quarterback situation right now is just, how Deshaun Watson is playing, and they gave him all that money with that contract. Yeah, that's definitely something to, be a little bit concerned about if you're a Browns fan. Right now, the line's 3.5. I think the Seahawks win this game. They're at home. 3.5. I could definitely see it being a 3-point game. It's 2.5 in my spread pool. So I'll say I'll say that the Browns cover the 3.5. It's a close game, but it's 2.5 in my spread pool. But I think Seahawks win by at least 3. They get the win here. All right, so now we'll go to the Broncos and the Chiefs. These two teams met a couple weeks ago. The final score is 19-8. Broncos are 2-5. Chiefs are 6-1. Broncos are a +7 favorite. Apparently, there's snow in the forecast. It says on CBS. So we'll see. Listen, I picked the Broncos the last time. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I think they win by at least 2 scores. The Broncos just don't look good offensively. The Chiefs look like they're starting to get into a rhythm. Right now, they look like the best team in the NFL. So I'm going to take them, although I will not be surprised with whatever happens. So, yeah, that's my pick there. And then we got the Ravens and the Cardinals. So I want to get into the Ravens for a second. So I think and right now the line is plus 9.5. Actually, Kyler Murray has been practicing. He logged a full practice, so he might be coming back in a couple weeks. But right now, Josh Dobbs is going to continue to be the starter. They placed Zach Ertz on IR, so look for McBride to get more targets. And you still got James Conner on IR as well. But I think the Ravens win this game by multiple scores. They should. Now, I wanted to address a couple of comments that on the Ravens video. Well, on the Ravens segment from the other day. So the first comment is from Tanya. Again, I'm sorry if I pronounced the names wrong. But Tanya Bowman 7208 said, and this is on the segment talking about how far the Ravens can go. She said, I'm sure people do realize we are implementing a new offense. We were a run-first team, changing our whole offense. Lamar is learning 3 new receivers, and the offensive line is adjusting to a more passing concepts instead of a run-first protection. That Steelers game was at the beginning of the season and the Colts game. We thought it would take about 7 or 8 games to come together. There will still be ups and downs, but as the season continues, we will have a great offense. We got a new OC because Greg Roman wanted Lamar to run first, and he wanted to improve as a passer and spread the field. He requested this before he would sign his contract so he wouldn't get injured. And then, first with this comment, yeah, I mean, listen, anytime you got a new offense that you got to implement, and you've seen it with all quarterbacks across the league. I mean, Aaron Rodgers with Matt LaFleur's system, Peyton Manning had to go through a bunch of systems. Eli Manning I could think of as well. I mean, I'm just all these guys a lot of guys have had to deal with new systems, and yeah, it takes time to adjust. Because the other thing too is, like, I talked about the Ravens, and they've struggled in some games this year, and part of that is drops, and they've been inconsistent. But that was a big win against the Lions, so maybe this is where they really get it going. Now here's the next comment here, and this is from @CourtneyCoconuts, and she said, while the receiver group certainly did not execute at all versus the Steelers, it's hardly a bad loss in terms of Steelers being a bad team. Steelers are 4-2 and heating up. Also, it's a divisional game. Those are inherently tough, close, and low scoring, especially Ravens versus Steelers. Those rivalries are too heated. Anything can happen. You've seen this all year. Just look at the Bills, Jets beat them in week 1, and the 1-5 Patriots beat them last week. Bengals got stomped on by the Browns too, 24-3, and no one remembers that, I guess. Outside of the AFC North, the Titans also beat the Bengals 27-3. Cincy is last in the division because it's the most competitive division in all of football, and they're playing mid right now, and you're still taking them to win it. But you are citing the 2 bad losses the Ravens had as the reasons why you're unsure after they demolished one of the top 5 teams in the league coming into it. If it wasn't for poor ball security in a lot of these circumstances, easily fixable, the 2 losses they have this year wouldn't have happened, and we would have won that playoff game against Cincinnati last year with Tyler Huntley. The Colts beat the Ravens by a field goal in overtime after playing in the pouring rain all day. With half of Ravens starters out on injury, Gardner Minshew ain't great, but he's not hopeless, clearly. They almost just beat the Browns. They hung 38 points on the supposed best defense in football, which is actually the Ravens' defense, yet everyone rides the Browns because of Myles Garrett being a superstar. So let's not act like the Colts are total poverty. They may be mid right now, but they certainly are not the Panthers, Cardinals, or Bears. I agree with that. I'm just saying context matters, and applying the same standard. If you're going to judge the Ravens based on their 2 losses without the context instead of their 5 wins, then you should judge the Bengals on their losses, all of them, just the same, because those were arguably way worse. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that comment. Yeah, listen, I still think the Bengals. I still pick them to win the division, but I do understand, like, when talking about the Ravens in that particular segment, I did, say, like, Those were bad losses. I think the Steelers game was a bad loss. I still do. Because of the fact that you had receivers dropping passes. There was a touchdown pass that was dropped, I think, by Bateman in the end zone. So that should have been a touchdown. And then Lamar Jackson threw a bad pick in the red zone. And that, I think that was what the Steelers capitalized to get. I think that's what led to the drive that, when Kenny Pickett connected with George Pickens for that long touchdown. That was a bad loss. But I understand, though, that the Bengals, yeah, they looked bad against the Browns. They looked really bad against the Browns. Joe Burrow has not played well in Cleveland. That's well documented. But also, yeah, the Titans' loss was bad too. Now, I will say, when you go back to the last couple of seasons, the Bengals have played the Titans. They played them in the playoffs. They played them last year in Tennessee, and they won both of those games. Joe Burrow's been banged up this year, so I think part of the reason why they got blown out against the Titans is because Joe Burrow was not right. That offense was not clicking. So, yeah. And listen, yeah, the Bengals are in last place, but they're not, behind by so many games. They're only a game and a half back. And listen, I did highlight the losses of the Ravens in that segment, but yeah, let's look at the wins. So the Lions game, very impressive. Very impressive. I have nothing to say about that. But the first game of the year, they played against C.J. Stroud, who's making his NFL debut. They won 25-9, right? Lamar Jackson didn't have his best game. He passed the ball for only 169 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. So there's that. They did beat the Bengals 27-24. They got back on the right track. Lamar played better. Had 2 touchdowns, passed for over 200 yards. Bengals weren't great in that game. They almost, came back in the game. Then they lost to the Colts. Then they beat the Browns in Cleveland. But you also had Deshaun Watson was out, and they played their rookie quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson in that game, DTR. So, yeah, they won that game, but you had, a quarterback making his first NFL start. You lose against the Steelers, a game you should have won. And let's not pretend listen, those games are always competitive, but let's not pretend like the Steelers are a good offensive team. They're not. Matt Canada is a guy that Steeler fans are constantly saying you got to fire him. So the Ravens should have won that game. And then you beat the Titans, and they were coming back in that game, and then Ryan Tannehill got hurt, and Malik Willis finished the game. So the Ravens wins, the most impressive win by far is against the Lions. So, yeah, I highlighted the losses, but if you look at the wins too, outside of the Lions game, and I guess you could throw in the Bengals, what win is really impressive? They played against 2 quarterbacks that had no experience, no NFL experience going in, making their first career starts. I'm just saying. But I get it. Right now the Bengals are in last place. They've had bad losses as well. But I've also said anybody can be beat this year, clearly. But yeah, no, I get it though. I get it. But listen, I said the Ravens, if they play like that, they could beat anybody. So this could be the beginning of a hot streak for them, where they just are, running over people. And their defense is playing good as well. So, yeah, I get that. But, I just, we talk about the Ravens' wins. Outside of the Lions, you look at those other games. Yeah, some of those wins are not really, I'm not going to say they were that impressive just because, of the quarterbacks they were going up against. But still, Ravens are a good team. I'm not taking that away from them. But I appreciate both comments. Obviously, again, they got an offense that they're trying to, figure out, and they're going to continue to get better. And we still got a long way to go. So I just wanted to address that. I appreciate the comments from both of them. And with that, we get to the end of the show, and we'll run through Chargers Bears really quick. Right now, the line's 8.5. I think the Chargers cover. I'm not confident with it, but I think the Chargers got to get right, and I think they will. Bring Tyson Bagent back down to reality, because I know a lot of people were praising him after the game, but they played against the Raiders. So, but yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. Again, I appreciate the comments on the Ravens segment from the other day. Love getting into discussions with the people in the comments. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me for today. I'm going to go record the Patreon now. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I'll be recording the baseball podcast 12:45 Eastern time, so make sure to tune in for that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's all the time that we got for today. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the games this weekend, and I'll see you guys if you guys tune in for the baseball podcast. So make sure to tune into that. Enjoy the games this weekend, and take care.